2024 fantasy football season is done. It's over. It's final. Your fake championships don't even matter to us anymore. Josh, Ryan, they have the script for the 2025 season. And believe me, we are fixing to let you know exactly who to pick, exactly where they should be picked, who's rising, who's falling, who's the sleeper that you should be grabbing for your 2025 fantasy football teams. This is Way Too Early Mock Draft. Yes, I said it. This is the Way Too Early Mock Draft Show. I am Gator. I am your host with the knowledgeable ones, the ones that have the script, that have already read the 2025 NFL script. Mr. Ryan Weisse, Mr. Josh Hudson, how are we doing on this Black Monday?
Yeah, it's an interesting day for the NFL because playoff pools are starting. Everybody's super excited, but there are certainly some head coaches that are not very happy right now.
Woof.
I mean, come on. The ones that were going to get fired already knew they were going to get fired. I'm more surprised about the GMs that didn't get fired.
Jeez.
That's what I'm more surprised about.
This
Because
dude,
Trent Baalke in Jacksonville, that man should have never been hired to begin with.
Yeah, he has something on Shad Khan. There's no denying that whatsoever. So
there is definitely some questionable ones that got held on to. I think there was one that got fired yesterday, Gerard Mayo. Maybe we were like, what happened?
So let me tell you about this Gerard Mayo firing. I am notorious for thinking the NFL cuts bait too quickly. And I did think it was weird that Gerard Mayo got the job. But the most frustrating part of the Gerard Mayo firing was Josh and Joe Zolo having like an 800 text message chain going back and fucking forth while I'm trying to get shit done in my like last grouping of rankings. And they are just going the fuck off about Gerard Mayo the whole day. And then he does get fired and they're like, he didn't deserve the job in the first place. It was like 2 messages after he does get fired. But you guys were driving.
In fairness, Joe was the one that said he didn't deserve the job to begin with. It wasn't me. I was just wondering why they felt the need to put in his contract that he would be the one that would succeed Bill Belichick.
Yeah, when I
then give up on him literally a year later makes zero sense.
That part, and then I'm not going to get into other thoughts. It's not for the show, but I don't like the whole thing. It's weird to me.
Well, we are here for the 2025 Way Too Early Mock Draft. So before we get to that, Josh, one last chance this year on Monday's Hangxiety to let us know about TrophySmack.
Absolutely. Head over to TrophySmack.com/WOFF. That's WOFF. Show some support to women in sports. That's what we're all about. Our partnership with Women of Fantasy Football and TrophySmack. It's all about giving back. We been blessed again to be able to send a group of women to the Super Bowl to cover, what is it, Super Bowl 59 this year, I believe is what it is. It's in New Orleans. We'd like to be able to give them more than just the passes, right? So when you guys do all of your shopping at TrophySmack to get those championship trophies, rings, belts, wall smack, all of that to celebrate your fantasy football championships, use that direct link and it goes to help us help women in sports. And from now until January 31st, you have 25 days left. At checkout, use promo code WOFF, WOFF. And any of those belts and trophies that you buy, you get yourself a free championship ring. Just make sure you already have the ring included in your cart, and you will get it for free when you use promo code WOFF, WOFF, with the purchase of a championship belt or trophy. Again, all of your achievement-based shopping at TrophySmack.com/WOFF, WOFF.
Don't forget to hit that like, hit that subscribe for us. We are getting closer and closer and closer to that 1,400 mark. We're going to go ahead and get this draft started. No green lights in here, though. No green lights. I just put the message in there. Hopefully, people start showing up.
I say it
Make
doesn't
sure you
even
put
show
the notification off, Jay.
I say it actually doesn't even show a green light for me, and I'm in the room though, so I'm not too worried about it. So,
all right, so we're gonna hit this go live right now.
And now the biggest test: will the first pick auto pick? will we get?
George is in the chat. I think we're good.
George, he's in the chat. So
will we get Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you're doing mock drafts out there, you need to make sure you're checking with the ADP. It's still set for last year's ADP. So just be on that the knowledgeable side of setting your queue.
I was fully prepared for a running back to go first. I'm not even gonna lie. This already throws my draft strategy out of whack.
This is Scott Fishbowl all over again.
Oh man.
Yeah. So Ryan, you went to the 112 here. Josh is on the clock at 1-2. I have Jamar Chase as 101 for me as well. Do you?
No. It's Bijan Robinson for me, who Josh just took. I know this is kind of your question for the first 3 picks later, but I am notoriously running back early, and my first 3 picks of the draft would be running backs. So,
Josh, you ended up taking Bijan here at the 1-2. I asked you the same question. You said that you were expecting a running back to go 1-1, and you were probably going to be taking Jamar Chase there at 1-2. Is that how you thought it was going to fall? If you were sitting at the 1-1, is it Jamar Chase for you, or is it Bijan?
Yeah, it's Chase for me as well. I tend to lean like I like running backs. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. When I'm early in the draft, I want a difference maker. Running backs aren't always the difference makers. I mean, you just look at this season right now. Jamar Chase has scored 80 fantasy points more than the next closest player. Not even at his same position. Quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, all of it. He is a difference maker. He just won the receiving triple crown. The likelihood that he repeats that, sure, probably not, and that's fine. Same reason why some people were fading Christian McCaffrey last year, because there's no way he was going to repeat it again. We haven't had that same, running back repeat as the RB1, in close to 20 years. We have had that at the wide receiver position. We see that quite often. Jamar Chase has been a top 5, top 10 wide receiver consistently since his rookie season. So not only are you getting the consistency that comes with a player at the 101, you're getting the overall 101 upside that comes with that. That's why I like Chase there. At the running back position, for me, it really boils down to Bijan versus Jahmyr Gibbs. The only thing holding me back with Gibbs, and it's nothing truly against him as a player, because I absolutely love him, it's that he's too consistent around the 40 to 50% snap share when I want him at like 60. And the fact that he's doing what he's doing at 40 or 50, if you give me that 60%, he would be run away the 101 in fantasy drafts, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. Going back to the Jamar Chase, I mean, you're talking about somebody like you said that's getting the triple crown this year. I believe he'll be the 4th player in NFL history to achieve that mark. But we kind of hit on this prior to the show, that when the 3 of us were talking beforehand. But if T. Higgins is not there next year, can you imagine what Jamar Chase's numbers are going to look like? Holy smokes.
I don't disagree with that. I think the first thing is, it's something we talked about on this show all season, is if the Bengals get a competent defense, is this a different offense next year? A big product of Jamar Chase, and you can't deny it. If you go back and look at some of his pop games, they were the Bengals having to score 400 points in the 4th quarter and Joe Burrow going to his guy. So obviously, without T. Higgins, Jamar Chase is going to be mad nice next year. If they have a defense, they may not need to throw the ball as much as they did this year.
Yeah, Josh kind of hit on it. My first question for us today was, if you were drafting today for your 2025 team, who would be your overall top 3 picks? And of course, mine, I mean, I've made it clear in the past, mine would all be wide receivers with Chase, Jefferson, and Lamb, and probably in that order. Bijan is definitely, somebody hard to pass up, but Saquon would also be in there. What concerns me with Saquon is the usage from this year, over 400 touches overall for him, but Gibbs is there as well. Ryan, who are your top three overall?
I'm the anti-Jay here because it's all running backs for me. It's Bijan Robinson, it's Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's Saquon Barkley. And I'm worried about the overusage of Saquon, and honestly, how much he gets used in this playoff run could also kind of weigh my expectations for Saquon Barkley next year. And Chase would be my 3, if not Barkley. But if I have a top 3 pick, I'm gonna stick with the strategy that's done well for me, and I'm gonna go running back early. It's not going to be a guy who is hurt going into week 1, especially if he has a Monday Night Football game. I'm not going to fall for that trap again. So,
wow, still throwing jabs at the past. Still throwing jabs.
What we do, man. What we do. Instant reaction show. That's what it is.
Instant reaction. Well, Ryan, you are on the clock currently with the 112. And then
I just love the position you guys have put me into. I have a queue set up. I told these guys before the show. I have a 140 player queue, so I basically know where I'm going in every round. And after all this running back talk, you guys leave me with 2 wide receivers.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a couple running backs that went in this first round with Saquon, of course. Derrick Henry, who last year we were getting in the late second, early third. Is that surprising to you guys that they've moved all the way up, or not surprising that they've moved all the way up? Is it surprising that maybe that we're overreacting to some of this 2024 already?
Not necessarily an overreaction. I mean, running backs kind of took the cake this year, right? Like there was a lot of wide receivers that got hurt, plain and simple. A lot of the high-end RBs, I mean, really outside of Christian McCaffrey, most of them were pretty effective and they stayed healthy predominantly for much of the season. So there's always going to be that level of, in your head, oh, what happened last year is going to happen this year. And that's not always the case, right? So some people you'll find that they'll stick with their wide receiver strategies of, going heavy wide receiver, taking the value at running back. Some people, like our co-host on NPI, Joe Zolo, doesn't matter the year. It's always 3 running backs to start, a wide receiver in the 4th. Like that is his tried and true strategy. There's nothing that can, take you off of that train. So, I mean, nothing really surprises me at this point.
Yeah. Derrick Henry still does kind of, I understand what he did this season, but all the warts that were on Derrick Henry coming into this past year are still on him. And now he's another year older. You have a team that passed the ball at a clip that they've never passed the ball, and their quarterback looked better doing it than he's ever looked in his career. I'm not saying Derrick Henry's not a great running back next year. I don't think he's a first round pick. I would not have taken Derrick Henry in the first round.
I agree with that side of it.
Yeah, I just want to
debating on whether or not I would have taken Jonathan Taylor in the first round. Well.
I'm so angry at Bro Cal right now. Great friend of the show. I needed to know where McCaffrey was going to go with this fresh, like with these folks. I would have died to know where McCaffrey went. Like that was the most important thing of this draft for me. I had him as a mid-second round pick, and I want to know if he would have went earlier than that. So,
yeah, I was going to ask you that question where you have him, but Josh, where would you have McCaffrey currently?
I think he's still a top 10 running back. I think I agree with Ryan, probably like mid-second. It really just kind of depends on where, people are valuing running backs versus the wide receivers. And as we see with Vince taking the tight end Brock Bowers in the second round, where somebody sees the value in having that elite tight end. I mean, I think, like I said, Tony chimes in the chat, RB9 for him for CMC. I think that's fair. I mean, you're definitely going to have some bias where people are going to be like, oh my God, I'm 1000% fading, McCaffrey because of X, Y, and Z. So, that's kind of where I'm at. Let me make this pick really quick, and I can.
Yeah,
you're going to hate me right now, Ryan.
You motherfucker! Oh
yes.
my God!
Yeah, I'm going to bring that up here in just a second. But Vince also says he would have passed on CMC at 2.7, where he took Brock Bowers. Would you do the same thing if you had the option of Brock Bowers versus CMC? Which way are you going?
I'm probably going Bowers. I think the positional advantage is there. I probably had Bowers head. I want to give a shout out to the last 2 picks. I knew you had to go dig for them in ADP, but I took those 2 wide receivers thinking that maybe Irving and Brown would have fell to me at my next turn. And I was literally going to say, if I get the first 4 players I think I'm going to get, this draft is over. I don't care what I make for the rest of my picks. So kudos to Josh and George. Wonderful picks there.
Well, I got to call you out, Ryan, because you're a fucking liar. You've been saying for about 3 weeks now.
Yeah, right.
Opportunity to take Bucky Irving in the first fucking round. You're doing it now.
I didn't expect Amon-Ra St. Brown and Malik Neighbors to fall where they did. I being perfectly honest with you, Jay, my next 2 picks in my queue were Chase Brown and Bucky Irving, which would have been the most Ryan draft ever. So yeah, I would have taken those 2 where I took these 2 wide receivers, but these wide receivers are so high for me. I'm not gonna make the mistake of passing up elite talent. And I'm not saying Irvin and Brown aren't, maybe not Brown, but Irving certainly looks like he might be. These 2 wide receivers are elite. These are 2 wide receivers that are better than everybody at their position. We're talking about taking Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase at 1. I might have just got them at 13. So
that's fair. Give you a real quick recap while Ryan's fixing to be on the clock here. Give you the first 2 rounds as we're in the middle of round 3 here. Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey was an auto pick there at 1-5. CeeDee Lamb at 1-6. Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Thomas Jr., Puka Nacua, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, and Amon-Ra St. Brown in the first round. Starting the second round with Malik Neighbors, Breece Hall, Kyron Williams, Devon Achane, Nico Collins, Brock Bowers being the first tight end off the board, as he should there at 2-6. Josh Jacobs, Marvin Harrison Jr., A.J. Brown, Drake London, Bucky Irving at 2-11, and Chase Brown to end the second round there at 2-12 with George. Vince is on the clock here at 3-7. Any big surprises through the first 2 rounds, Ryan?
Very running back heavy. When I'm looking at my queue right now, I don't like what's coming up for me at 3-12. So it's no surprise, like Josh said, we're reacting to what happened last year, where it wasn't close to 50-50 in the first 3 rounds at running back wide receiver last year. If I remember correctly, it was like 8 to 4 wide receiver per round, like 8 to 4 almost. We all really bought into the wide receiver role, and now we've just swung. And now this, to put it bluntly, this looks like a 2022 draft. Like everything is super even, and we don't know who's going to pop and who's not going to pop. So I like it from a fantasy standpoint. I don't like it from a Ryan's draft strategy standpoint.
Well, Ryan, you're fixed to be on the clock to end out round 3 and start round 4. Josh, any big surprises for you in the first 2 rounds?
Yeah, I mean, Ryan kind of touched on the CMC auto pick. Marvin Harrison was also an auto pick. So I would be really curious to see kind of where those 2 in particular would have fallen. I think there's definitely a lot of, sour grapes in the mold of Marvin Harrison right now, because everybody expected him to be so great. Many of us had him as a top 12 overall wide receiver coming in, just because of the situation that he fell into. Obviously that was a bit of a disappointment, but not, and this is the thing, like not every rookie wide receiver is going to come in and pop, right? Like, yeah, we had the Lad McConkeys, the Malik Neighbors, the Brian Thomas Jr.'s, the Brock Bowers. Obviously all those guys pop, which is great, but we've seen some subpar rookie seasons. Like, Rome Odunze only had a little over 700 yards. Marvin Harrison just shy of 900. Those aren't by any means bad seasons, and there's plenty of room for growth. So now people are going to go through and fade these guys instead of saying, you know what, they're actually allowed to get better. But seeing kind of where these Marvin Harrison in particular fell, I think that you might have been able to get him probably in the 4th or 5th round. And I think in this 3rd round, you're starting to see sort of where the not so updated sleeper ADP has come into play, because I don't think Chris Olave is a 3rd round pick. Tyreek Hill going in the 3rd round is a little surprising, although him kind of coming out and saying, I'm out, homie, deuces, like, that changes things for Miami, obviously. But how does that elevate someone like Jalen Waddle, for instance, right? Like if they do end up trading Tyreek Hill, now you figure I mean, there's definitely a few players that haven't gone yet where I'm kind of like, their offseason situations could change a lot. So maybe that obviously alters sort of where they end up going in future, 2025 redrafts.
Yeah, I agree. Don't forget, hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you are watching over on YouTube, if you're watching over on Twitter or any other platform you want to join us on YouTube, you are more than welcome to do that. We will get you involved in the show like we are doing right here with Vince. He says, whose idea was it to mock at 3 a.m.? Gators, I assume. And yes,
for context, Vince lives in Australia.
And yes, Astro 100% was here 5 minutes before the show and getting a drum roll going already. So we do appreciate everybody jumping in the chat. If you have questions, comments, you want to brag about your championships, go right ahead in the chat. We will get you up as quick as we can here. Caesar says, yo, I was down 40 and won by 80. Thank you,
That's
Nick.
that 2-week championship. Love that, man. Yeah, I was so mad at Jahmyr Gibbs. Motherfucker puts up 48 points yesterday. I'm like, where the hell was this in week 17 when I needed to win my damn championship?
Yeah.
I was so pissed.
Well, not to mention that my DFS builds were really around that being a passing game.
Right?
Did not happen. Shout out to Jordan Addison pulling his best George Pickens on Sunday night.
Vince, why does Zach Taylor still have a job?
Trust me, we're all trying to figure that one out.
Yeah.
Fair. Vrabel to the Pats for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Vrabel and Josh McDaniel, and it's just gonna be a Belichick reunion. So,
well, I hope that happens for my selfishly, because there is a lot of links for Liam Cohen to go up there as well. So hopefully they go ahead and get the Vrabel signed deal done. While the Bucs are still, trying to limp their asses through the playoffs.
I was just gonna say we can't lose Cohen. I can't allow that to happen.
No. Easy B. Ricky Draft. I have the 102. The guy at 1-1 is unsure of his pick. Reached if I wanted to move up. Thoughts on if worth moving one spot for Ginty or roll with the one he has at the 1-2 there. I'm assuming this is going to be a dynasty right here.
Dynasty and non-super flex, I'm guessing. Okay. So
I don't know. I think there's plenty of people that would put Ashton Genty as the 101 even in super flex.
I'm not moving up for him in super flex, and honestly, I think that's a mistake anyway. You take quarterbacks in super flex. Don't overthink this. If this is super flex, 100% stay at the 102 and maybe move back if they're not taking quarterbacks.
Look, the way I play dynasty when it comes to the rookie draft, I draft for talent, not for need. Number one, if that 1-2 is yours, you earned it. You probably
don't need a running back. A running back ain't saving your team.
Right. So, we shall see.
I mean, to Josh's point, though, one of our dynasty analysts got the 101 in a super flex draft and has openly said in the chat he is taking Ashton Genty with that 101. So,
okay,
it's not unheard of. So, like I said,
no, it's definitely not unheard of. I think it's bad process, but I mean, everybody has their look. I took over an orphan in one league. That team is absolute dog shit. I hit on a couple rookie picks in this year's draft. I've got the 101 and the 102. Honestly, I've already put the 101 on the trade block. Like, my team is so far away. Like, my starting quarterbacks are Tua and Deshaun Watson. Like, even if I were to go Sanders and Cam Ward, presuming that they're top 3, top 4 picks in the actual NFL draft, it's not saving my team, right? I need to actually build a roster. So you have to be able to look at all areas and say, all right, I need to strengthen this, versus, hey, let me just get the most talented players.
Yeah, that's right. I stand that way in a draft that you're in with me, Josh, where I thought the team was dead in the water and I was probably going to be out for 3 years. I have a lot of picks this year, 2 1s and 4 2s, I think. Maybe 3 1s and 4 2s, but regardless, I thought I was going to be out for years. But if Bryce Young is who we saw yesterday, my quarterbacks are Bryce Young and Bo Nix. And now I need to make a decision on how I can turn that into. I don't want to wait until 2027 and let something go wrong with these quarterbacks. So
Jamie wants to know why we're waiting so late to start marking. I'm assuming he's meaning time frame is in the year that we're starting.
Sorry that we were a week behind the end of the season, Jamie.
Not
Yeah, I
at
was gonna
2
say.
a.m. Because Jamie is Central Time. So
Jamie just brought up, though, if Cam Ward goes to the Browns, do not draft him.
And here's the thing with the announcement today, where GM Andrew Berry said that Deshaun Watson suffered a setback in his Achilles recovery. It legitimately makes me wonder, because the Browns currently sit at the 102. Obviously, we know the Titans need a quarterback. Will Levis ain't it. He was a second-round pick anyway, so there's no real financial commitment there. They need a quarterback. I would think that either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders will likely be the 101.
Yeah.
If you're the Browns, knowing that you have Deshaun Watson and have seemingly said he's our quarterback with all of these contract restructures and pushing the, kicking the can down the line, all this other stuff, do you say, look, we can't hurt Deshaun Watson's feelings, so we can't take a quarterback? Or do you say, well, you know what? Fuck it. We need a quarterback. Like, I'm legit. Like, if you run the Browns and all of the decisions that you have made are saying that we still believe in Deshaun Watson, are you picking a quarterback? Or are you looking to trade, try to bait the Giants into maybe moving up one, bait the Raiders to moving up, getting a haul? Like, how would you approach this draft? I'm just curious, Ryan.
I don't know the rookies well enough. The fact of the matter is this: the Browns cannot get out of Watson this year at all. And more than likely not next year. They are into him for $170 million over the next 2 seasons. It's going to be hard for them to get out from underneath of him at this point. But like you said, what else are they going to do? If you get this quarterback, is it just going to be a perpetual quarterback battle? Like, decisions need to be made. And I don't know quite how those decisions are going to shake out, especially now that you're keeping your coach, you're presumably keeping your GM. These guys are the ones who made this Watson deal. They know their jobs are on the line. It's very clearly a hot seat situation. You win to get out of the hot seat. You don't say, well, let's restart the clock with Cam Ward. I think you're probably right, Josh. I think it's a trade back situation.
Yeah, and I'm going to be really curious, because really, it's ultimately going to boil down to who the Titans feel fits best with what Brian Callahan wants to do at quarterback. I think that Cam Ward has more of the intangibles that Brian Callahan would look for in a quarterback. And if that's the case, the Raiders need to be calling the Browns immediately, trying to trade up to get Shedeur Sanders, because Tom Brady loves Shedeur Sanders. Tom Brady is a minority owner with the Raiders. He's going to have a hand in choosing the next quarterback, and you need to jump the Giants, plain and simple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go back 6 spots versus 1 spot, you're going to get more draft capital in return. And that's what the Browns need to restock this team, especially that offensive line, to potentially give Deshaun Watson a chance, or build a team so when you do end up getting off of Deshaun Watson, you can drop a quarterback into the right situation.
Yeah, for everybody out there, I believe it's the first 14 picks right now are locked in, but the first 5 are definitely locked in. It's the Titans, Browns, Giants, Patriots.
No, it's the first 18
Jaguars.
or something like that are locked in.
Yeah.
You have 14 playoff teams.
Yeah, whatever it is. But these are the top 5. It's the Titans at 1, Browns at 2, Giants at 3, Patriots at 4, Jags at 5. 3 of them need a quarterback. All 3 of them like Cam Ward, from what I'm hearing. So Cam Ward may be the best quarterback in the class, but whatever.
He's a gunslinger, man. I love watching him on.
I know so little. I knew rookies were going to come up in this. I was happy they're not in the pool. I know so little about these rookies. I know Ashton Genty's good, but I also know running backs don't get drafted early. So.
Well, listen, I will tell you this. Come back in the future.
I was going to say, that's actually a really good segue, because we've had a couple of comments about Genty in this draft.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I want to bring up a couple real quick. Chris B, my co-host over on
Hey,
Mocking
buddy.
with the Stars. Brown and Neighbors is a dirty
Stop
star.
inflating Ryan's ego, Chris. Okay, just
Here's
stop.
with how many with how heavy the running back class is projected for this year, 50% of the running backs pick could be much less
That
favorable.
is true. This is a pretty good running back class. There's going to be a lot of depth, a lot of pieces that can come in and kind of be that sort of 1B / rotational piece that can really upset some of these, starters that played this year. You think of like some of the older running backs, a la Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, James Conner, Joe Mixon. Some of these guys, like teams maybe put some people in place last year. This year, more teams are going to be doing that.
I want to, it also reminds me of this past year's class where you're saying it's going to hurt the current players. It's also going to hurt these rookies, much like what we just saw. The guys we loved out of this year's class all kind of went to shitty situations, whereas like Marshawn Lloyd went to be a backup. Jalen Wright went to be a backup. Trey Benson went to be a backup. Blake Corum went to be a backup. If these guys had landed in the right spot, Dallas, we would have loved them and overdrafted them, but instead they were drafted to be backups, and it's likely we're going to end up in that same situation. And that situation has produced like no good rookie running backs for us this season. And so is that going to be a similar situation? You think Genty's going to outplay the talent? And I understand what Genty did is borderline generational, a term I'm not going to use, but like we fucking loved Blake Corum and he couldn't get past Kyron Williams. If Ashton Genty
and the moment he gets to start, he breaks his forearm.
Yeah, don't even get me fucking started on that. I'm not saying like I clearly don't want this to happen because I love good fantasy, but if Ashton Genty ends up in the wrong spot, we're gonna get blinded by Boise State talent, and I don't know that we need to reach for him necessarily.
Well, first of all, I'm going to correct you because I did not say it. My co-host, Chris B, said it. I didn't. So don't try to, you said bullshit. But speaking of Ashton Genty, Jamie wants to know, where does Ashton Genty go? Round 3, round 4, maybe?
I'll tell you right now, he would have not got past me at 312 because of my running back situation in this draft. So he would have went there to me, but just the way this draft has shaken out, I think Ashton Genty's probably a second-round pick in this draft. I think he maybe goes over Chase Brown. I think he certainly goes over James Conner at the 3-1. So in this specific draft, I think Ashton Genty doesn't get past the 25th overall pick.
He would not have gotten past 211. I would have taken him over Bucky.
See, and then maybe everything would have worked out the way we wanted it to, Josh.
I
just would have done the Joe Zolo start with Bijan, Genty, and Irving.
Yeah, right now I kind of did a mock by myself just to kind of see how players would fit in, how I like the players fitting in, and of course this goes to exactly what Ryan was saying. Landing spot is going to matter, especially when it comes to these running backs. But I have him at 2.7, just ahead of where I would have had Christian McCaffrey. So middle of the second round.
Yeah.
Overall RB7 or so.
I feel like we learned a lot about landing spot dependency specifically for running backs. And to counter that, we learned a lot of landing spot independency for wide receivers this season. So
yeah.
Yes.
Genty to Dallas. I mean, that's a no-brainer. He might even move up a little bit further.
Genty to Dallas. Let me look at this draft board real quick. Genty to Dallas.
Real quick, I just want to MT that was an auto pick. So
yeah,
that was one of the things Ryan wanted to see where CMC was going to fall. Unfortunately, we did have that one auto pick early. So we will definitely work that out through the next few mocks.
Genty to Dallas is borderline my RB5 fighting with Bucky Irving.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
And he's going in the first round for me.
What if he goes to the Chargers? I've seen that as a spot mock for him as
almost the exact same. I'd
agree with that.
Definitely ahead of Bucky for me at that point. Dallas, I think, is actually a bad team. I think the Chargers are a better landing spot.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Let me get everybody caught up that is just able to listen. Round 3 started off with James Conner, Trey McBride, Garrett Wilson, James Cook, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, Terry McLaurin, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Chris Olave, Mike Evans, the new 11 straight years of 1,000 yards for Mike Evans. Awesome accomplishment there. Even though Josh was in the text message with me and Ryan talking all kinds of shit, but that's okay. Baker Mayfield came through.
Really wasn't talking shit about that, okay?
Alvin Kamara ends out the 3rd round. Aaron Jones starts the 4th. DJ Moore, Ken Walker, Lad McConkey, Rashid Rice, Jalen Waddle, Chuba Hubbard, Josh Allen, the first quarterback off the board, Isaiah Pacheco, David Montgomery, Zay Flowers, Cortland Sutton to end the 4th round. And then we start to get into the 5th, where we have some quarterbacks coming off the board here with Lamar Jackson, Devontae Adams, Jaden Daniels, Chris Godwin, Travis Etienne, Joe Burrow, Cooper Kupp, Bijan Robinson, Xavier Worthy, Brandon Ayuk, Devontae Smith, rounding out the 5th round there with Jalen Hurts. Are you surprised that Jalen Hurts lasted this long with the QB5 basically off in this draft, Ryan?
I was shocked that Jalen Hurts lasted this long. Though I do love drafting with sharps. What a sharp room we have to let quarterbacks fall as far as they did. This has always been my strategy. When you draft with industry folks, and that's a compliment to everybody in this draft, when you draft with industry folks, they tend to let quarterbacks fall. I stop fucking around with elite quarterbacks in the 5th round. That's every year. So I've gotten Josh Allen in the 5th round of industry drafts. I've gotten good Patrick Mahomes in the 5th round of industry drafts. And in this one, I'm getting Jalen Hurts. That's exactly what I'm looking for. If I can get an elite quarterback in the 5th round, I'm doing it every single time. Set it and forget it. I got to go delete every other quarterback off of my queue because I don't draft backup quarterbacks, and it really opens the rest of the draft up for me. So I was happy to see the way that shook out.
Well, Josh,
got to do a quick correction here. Quick correction. That 5th round was Brian Robinson, not Bijan Robinson.
Oh, okay.
Flamed in the chat.
Did I say Bijan? My bad.
Yes, you did.
It's probably because I was laughing at Joe here, just getting at you, Josh. Because you.
But here's the thing. So in all honesty, when I took Devontae Adams, I was not eyeing Jalen Hurts. I was actually eyeing Jaden Daniels. And then, of course, Daniels goes the very next pick. So I was like, okay, so I was on the right train of thought here. Like, this is kind of where these, elite sort of rushing quarterbacks are going to go. So I'm like, all right, I can live with that. It's a mock. It's whatever. But, yeah, I was actually leaning more Daniels than Jalen Hurts.
Jamie saying the Browns should cut all 53 men to save money and forfeit everything in 5 years.
So I started that for a reason. I don't remember if it was this show where I talked about it, but the Browns should also look into the emergency rule, where if 11 of their players are dead, they actually automatically get the first pick of the next 2 drafts, and they get to do a dispersal of other teams. So maybe the Browns should murder Deshaun Watson and 10 of his teammates. And that's how you start this thing over. That's an actual rule, by the way, folks.
It is an actual
rule.
Yeah, we brought that up on one of the mocks last year, I believe. I don't know why that got brought up, but I remember
it was the Giants. It was the Giants where people were saying this is how the Giants should approach this season, was killing 11 of their players. So someone said #Luigi.
How do you get into the next mock with us? All you got to do is, if you're on Twitter, go over there to Club Fantasy FFL, DM the Club Fantasy account that you want to get in on the mocks, and we will get you in.
I'll extend that. I'll extend that really quick. Our socials, every single one, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
yes,
at Club Fantasy FFL. You can DM any single one of them. I know not everybody is on Twitter. Some people might be on Instagram. Some people might be on Facebook. You can DM us on any of those platforms, and we can send you the link to our sleeper mock draft group. We can get you in. That's where we drop all.
Yeah, you want to be a part of that mock draft group. That's where you're going to hear about it. So I do want to throw out there, just so everyone's aware, this show goes on a bit of a hiatus, just so everyone is all on the same page. So this is going to be our last show for a while. My plan, now obviously we may do mocks, just not live mocks. My plan is to do the next live mock after the Super Bowl. So
yeah, I think that's when Chris and I might jump into one before, not before the Super Bowl, but after the Super Bowl. But we're fixing to have 2 to 3 mocks a week go live. So
well, there's something else I need to bring up. Is with the way we have built this Monday crowd, I feel like I need to come back to this time slot for my mock draft show. So I'll talk to all you guys about that, because if you guys are so active, this draft filled up so quick. And again, you guys have done so much for us at Mondays at 11 o'clock in the morning. I feel like I might need to come back to this time slot. It's just a bitch getting guests. So you guys might get shows with just me, which is going to be real interesting for all of you.
And then you can still do the other show.
Yes,
that would free you up for another show. So that would
all right, Jay, let's stop writing checks. My ass needs the cash.
Round 6 starts with Orlando Dunze, DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman Jr., Tyrone Tracy, Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Addison, DeAndre Swift, and then we start to get into a little bit of a tight end run here with Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, Mark Andrews, Calvin Ridley at 6'11". J.K. Dobbins ends the 6th round there. Any big surprises so far through these first 6 rounds? I know you guys have hit on some of these players, but is there anyone that we haven't talked about that you wanted to highlight?
There's a couple that actually jumped out at me later on. One that jumped out to me way later on that you asked a question about hours ago. Brian Thomas at 108 blew my mind. I don't know how that got by me. I love what Brian Thomas has done, but Brian Thomas over Amon-Ra St. Brown and Malik Neighbors is ludicrous to me, Thompson. So that's a big one for me.
Well, hang on, because I'll throw this at you. Over the last 4 weeks of the NFL season, I remember who his quarterback is currently.
I was just going to say.
Wide receiver 3 in fantasy points per game.
Well, I guess if Mac Jones is the quarterback, I can put a little bit more faith in Brian.
Only behind, of course, the 2 that went off early. A quick little thing with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. All 3, including Brian Thomas Jr., played at LSU. Just see, I'm just not saying
wide receiver you, baby.
Wide receiver you.
Yeah. Other than that, I have been letting running backs I want fall to see where they go. That's a strategy I'll do in some mock drafts. I just want to give kudos to the drafters here. I already said, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, wonderful picks that you guys got. Astro Dabber grabbing Chuba Hubbard in the 4th, fantastic pick. And then Jafar, Tyrone Tracy in the 6th. I took Roma Dunze 100% wanting to take Tyrone Tracy or even J.K. Dobbins, but I wanted to see where they fell in this draft for them to go in that round. I just feel like we've seen such a great job with folks taking these mock drafts seriously and ignoring the ADP. Like, kudos to the drafters. That's just a point I want to get across. But other than that, no major surprises. The biggest surprise to me skimming the draft board has easily been Brian Thomas. Like that one caught me off guard by a lot. So
I think the biggest surprise is how god awful ugly rounds 4 through 8 are when it comes to draft picks, because like I'm literally sitting here, I'm trying to figure out who I've got people in my queue and I'm like, okay, I like these guys probably in like, 10th round, et cetera, et cetera. And like, I had Jalen McMillan in my queue and then you take him in, what is that? The 8th or 7th round. I was like, damn, even that felt early, because look, you guys know how much I hate Jerry Jeudy, but right now he's a wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
I get that as my 4th wide receiver in the 7th round. I'm going to take that.
That's where I was with McMillan, Josh. I was like, does it feel a little early? Yes. But the fact of the matter is this, it's where he fell when I created my queue. And it's exactly what you just said. Obviously, Jeudy has the higher upside right now based on what we've seen from Jeudy recently, but he's my 4th wide receiver. Like, I'm going to take that value all day. So
yeah, I was looking at Jaden Reed as well. I mean, him being kind of up and down. And I know there was actually a question in the chat, and I want to bring this up only because I think it's pretty relevant. You look at the Detroit offense, Jameson Williams in the 7th round. How do we feel about that, Ryan?
It's about right, but it's what I've been saying. Jameson Williams is not a guy who has room. I have room for on my team. I'll draft Jameson Williams in every best ball draft known to man. I don't feel comfortable putting Jameson Williams in a starting lineup. Plain and simple. I don't know when I can play him. I don't know when I can't play him. 7th feels exactly right. And the players that are going around him, this is exactly
kind of the similar feel. Yeah, I get that. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're in a best ball draft, I think you could probably make a case for him as early as maybe the 5th round.
Looking at the wide receivers he went around, that's exactly what I would say. 6th, 5th, because you can make a case. You certainly can make a case for Jameson Williams over Michael Pittman. There's a 50-50 case over Jordan Addison. There's certainly a case over Calvin Ridley, all who went before him. So I think in a best ball draft, there's a case to be made, certainly over even my guy, Jaden McMillan. So
Jamison
I
Williams.
want to address this one really quick, Jay. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Because Tony brings this up when we were talking about Brian Thomas. I don't think it's asinine that he's a 108, especially because he finished.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I didn't want it to come off that way either. So,
but let's also look at the amount of wide receivers that were drafted highly that got injured. The expectation, obviously, is that they bounce back, right? So if everybody stays healthy in a vacuum, Brian Thomas probably doesn't finish as the wide receiver 4.
And then you throw a healthy.
And again, this is what you're ultimately prognosticating as you head into 2025, right? That's why we do these mock drafts. That's why the offseason plays out, right? I'm not saying it's crazy at all. There's a world where, sure, Brian Thomas could finish as the wide receiver 1. If you believe in Trevor Lawrence, if you believe in the next head coach play caller that comes into Jacksonville. I'm not going to bet on it because I think Jacksonville's a dumpster fire franchise. The same reason why I didn't bet on Malik Neighbors, because the Giants are a dumpster fire franchise.
Yeah.
I'm going to take guys that I know have proven themselves over the last few years. I love Brian Thomas. I think he's hands down a top 10 wide receiver. I think wide receiver 4 heading into 2025 might be a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, like I said, and he brings up that why he went with that pick a little bit later on in the chat.
Yeah.
But like for that same argument, Amon-Ra St. Brown finished higher than him. So,
yeah, exactly.
No, like I said, and this is not to come across that I don't like Brian Thomas. It's just that when I sketched out the first round, I didn't see Brian Thomas as a first round pick. I saw Malik Neighbors, Amon-Ra St. Brown as first round picks. I'm happy to know people like Brian Thomas that much. I'm with you, Josh. I don't like the Jaguars that much. I think that's my concern. But then I'm like, do I like the Giants that much? But like I said, Malik Neighbors over these last 5 weeks, he showed me something crazy special. So
yeah, and the same thing. So is Brian Thomas Jr. These are elite prospects. They're former first round draft picks. We know they have what it takes to be great in this league. There were a lot of circumstances that worked in their favor with some of these injuries, the higher profile guys. But you can't deny what they put on tape and what they put on.
Not at all. Like I said, Brian Thomas is great. Don't get me wrong. It's just I didn't expect to see him as a first round pick.
George says he doesn't think McConkey or Rashee Rice make it out of the 3rd round in redrafts leagues. Where they go right here in the 4th, 4-4 and 4-5 back to back.
Rashee Rice is interesting because there's still the specter of the legal issue hanging over his head as well, and so I think that's going to force some fantasy managers' hands. I think in this not the same situation, but I think Christian McCaffrey and missing games early put a bad taste in people's mouth to where I think we're going to see a lot of risk adverseness next year. McConkey, I could certainly see jumping up. Rashee Rice, honestly, I could see falling down. So
Asher says it's wild that Kittle is tight end 6. He missed him when he took Swift, but he was able to get him on the return.
Yeah, I was crossing my fingers that Kittle was going to make it to me because when I initially threw my board together, I obviously threw Bowers and McBride up there very early. And then everyone else kind of got lumped in, but Kittle was kind of the head of that pack. So I was hoping he was going to make it to me because what a season he put together. And there's no reason to think it's not going to be there's no reason to think it's going to be a different offense in San Francisco next year. I think Kittle's going to be the head of that offense yet again. So,
Josh, you kind of hit on this a little bit ago with you wanting to take Daniels, and ultimately you went with Adams, and then Daniels falls to the 5-3 right after that pick. Tony says he feels like Daniels will probably be the consensus quarterback 3 going into the year. Is that how you feel as well?
Yeah, I mean, look how much the industry propped up CJ Stroud after a great rookie season.
100%.
Wait.
I mean,
are you saying that Jaden Daniels is going to regress a ton?
No, I'm not saying that. They have completely different
skills. Are you giving us the script? Is that what you're doing right now?
No. I think they have very different skill sets. I mean, I'm not saying that, Jaden Daniels can't hit a second-year wall. I mean, if Cliff Kingsbury, for instance, gets a head coaching opportunity, now you're talking about a change in offensive coordinator, which obviously can go through and alter the performance of any player, especially a young quarterback. But as Austin brings up in the chat, Jaden Daniels runs. that's ultimately going to prop up his fantasy value the way that it doesn't prop up CJ Stroud's. And also keep in mind too, so much of offseason redraft ADP is influenced by dynasty drafts, right? Where do you think Jaden Daniels fits in the QB hierarchy in dynasty? I'd say probably right now QB 5, if not higher. So that's going to play in.
It has to be that at least, yeah. So,
going back to what you said a little bit ago, Ryan. Vince is like, no, not this time, slide for your Monday show.
Yeah,
that's
a good point.
The AM wake up call.
Jay, we do have a super chat.
I didn't see that. Where are we at with it?
Way at the bottom. I can pop it up on the screen now.
Keep Neighbors next year round 5 or Bucky round 13 in a PPR.
This is the tagging at Ryan's heartstrings kind of question right here. Talent wise, this has to be Neighbors. He is elite, and if you can keep him for a second year, just being able to hang on to him for multiple years, talents wise, this has to be him. But my God, getting what I look at as a first round running back in the 13th round, this might come down for me. And which one could I possibly get back in the draft? If I have an early pick and I might be able to get Neighbors, I'm keeping Bucky. If I have a late pick, I'm going to keep Neighbors and hope I can get Bucky in the first. So that value.
That's exactly how I would look at it. I mean, that value on Bucky Irving is sick.
Filthy.
I mean, you get what could be a top 6 running back in the 13th round. I'm more often than not going to do that because it allows me to go wide receiver heavy. So maybe I don't get to keep Neighbors for round 5, but I can load up on other really good wide receivers.
Yeah.
And
100%.
Maybe make a trade to get Neighbors if need be, right? It seems to me like running backs are a lot harder to trade for in redraft because there's so few elite options. Whereas with wide receiver, you can mix and match all day. You can get high-end production from, I don't know, mid-round guys, right? I mean, shit. Jerry Jeudy just went in the 7th round. Look what he did the last half of the season. You know what I mean? You don't seemingly get that from the running back position. I think here I would probably lean Bucky, but also too, what's your traditional draft strategy? Do you like to load up on wide receivers early? If that's the case, take the elite running back for the 13th round value.
And then grab
if you
your
prefer
early wide receivers
to kind of load up on running backs, take Neighbors and load up on the running backs early.
Yep.
That's kind of how I would get it.
Yep.
What a great spot to be in, by the way. Excellent drafting last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jamie, I'm trying to find it now. He had the question about when does Sleeper put rookies in.
Look at the start section, Jay.
Yeah, there it is. This, I don't know the actual answer to this. I believe it's
later than you want it to be. I remember that from last year.
Yeah, it's like literally right before the NFL draft or right after the NFL draft. It's
no, I started my drafts in March, and I felt like we had rookies. So I might even be able to pull my schedule up here in a second. So hold that thought, and I'll see what I can find.
Chris says, if you had to put a large sum of money on who will be the starting quarterback for the Steelers next year, who you got? Josh, I'll let you talk about it.
Honestly,
that's a great answer.
I think Fields. Because if you look at how much Russ has regressed this last month or so of the season, right? Like it was all, rainbows and fucking roses when they made the switch and Russ was 4-1 or whatever it was. And now he ends the season 0-4. I think at that point, why not make the switch to the younger guy? Give him an opportunity, give him that 1-year deal, let him see what he can do. Draft a mid-round guy. Maybe you can land Jalen Milroe, somebody like that, and maybe the 2nd round, somebody that you can kind of groom a little bit. I mean, the Steelers are in QB purgatory right now. Like you're just dealing with like retread backups and old starters at this point.
Yeah.
So try to get younger at the position. You saw some promise from Fields. He was 4-2 the first 6 weeks of the season. See what you can do. See what you can get out of him.
Yeah, that's kind of where I stand with it. Russ has a lot to prove in this playoff run, and I don't think it's going to be a long playoff run for them. So I don't think it's going to matter. I think Russ, if they were not in the playoffs, Russ's nail was in his coffin. That the look on Mike Tomlin's face when he ran that ball and destroyed that clock by not going out of bounds or just throwing the ball away and essentially losing them the game, though there's no guarantee they were going to win it since George Pickens couldn't catch a ball. I think Russ nailed his own coffin, but he can certainly climb out of the grave with a playoff run. I just don't see this as a team that can make a playoff run. So
Tony says, shocked that Amon-Ra and Neighbors went before Nico, especially since there's no tank next year.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think I have this like unconscious bias against Nico Collins because Tony is absolutely right. I think honestly, I am a man of the tides, and the tide has turned on me for CJ Stroud. And so I feel like I'm just like put off by that team. We saw Joe Mixon turn to dust to end the year. We don't know what we're getting out of CJ Stroud. I should give Nico Collins far more respect than what I've given him in this draft. So
yeah, you're such a hater. God.
I am. That's true though. There's no denying that. So the problem is like players leave bad taste in my mouth. And I was one of those guys, Josh. You mentioned how the industry inflated CJ Stroud for a month on my Football Guys Dynasty rankings. CJ Stroud was my dynasty #1 quarterback. Now, thankfully, before the season, I came off of that ludicrous idea and fixed it. But I bought in, and when I fall for something hook, line, and sinker, oh my God, if you fuck me over, I'm going to hate you forever. So.
George says Baker in the 10th is incredible. I believe it is
Great value.
11 right here in this current mock.
Yeah, I had him in my queue too. I was debating after like missing on Daniel. Well, not really missing, but passing on Daniels. I was like, all right, I can get, some different value later. I ended up going Kyler simply for the rushing upside. But Baker was in my queue. Bryce Young, Caleb Williams. I ended up double dipping at quarterback, which I don't usually do, but I kind of just wanted to.
I love when you guys
a little bit. So
I love when you guys do this. The 13th round is the story of why you don't take a quarterback in the 5th fucking round. Because look at obviously I love Bryce Young. I don't know if he's draftable in a 1 QB, but Herbert and Nix, like, oh my God, like to get these guys with the last pick of a draft. And I didn't see where he went. Oh, Goff went in the 8th. So Goff was mildly overpriced in this, but Baker in the 10th. Herbert and Nix in the 13th is exactly why you wait on quarterback. And every year we have these guys. And so I went and had Nix as the last player in my queue for my last pick, just because I'm like, if I don't need a backup quarterback, but if I can get Bo Nix just to laugh at people, I'm taking Bo Nix. So.
Yeah. I mean, and plus when you start looking at I took Jalen Wright in the 11th. Like, I don't know. I'm assuming that Raheem Mostert probably gets cut. So there's an RB2. I'm like, all right, cool. But like you're getting into this territory where everybody has question marks.
Yep.
Literally everybody. I know that Bryce Young has a job. Fuck it. I'll take him.
It's fair.
Jamie's got
I need to address Jamie's question whenever we get to it, but keep going, Jay.
Yeah, as I say, Jamie's got a dynasty superflex question here. It's Breece Hall or Bucky at 112.
Oh, I'm still
no Bucky and the 112, right? And He's getting Bucky and the 112.
Okay. Breece Hall or Bucky in the 112.
I think I'd still go Breece.
I'll go Bucky in the 112. I'm interested in that package.
For a guy that doesn't like draft picks, that's surprising.
I'll turn that.
Wow, you just really have a hard on for Bucky, isn't it?
I'll turn that 112 into something else. Exactly. I'll take Bucky in the 112.
Yeah, I'm on that side as well, Ryan. Bucky in the 112 for me. Is that the one, or you wanted to go down here to this Marvin?
Yeah,
Mims?
No, that was that one. Yeah, because I did take Marvin Mims. The biggest thing for me when it comes to Marvin Mims, it's he was Sean Payton's first overall draft pick as a head coach of the Denver Broncos, right? Yes, he didn't have a great rookie season, but you know who also didn't have a really good rookie season was Quentin Johnston. Look what Quentin Johnston did just in week 18. All the touchdowns that he's caught this year. It's okay when young wide receivers take a little bit of time to grow. What's happened with Marvin Mims this year? It's taken him some time to grow, but he's caught fire this last month, 6 weeks of the season, because Bo Nix has been a good quarterback as a rookie. Cortland Sutton is a free agent. There's quite literally no guarantee that he's going to be coming back. So from a talent perspective, Are you taking Marvin Mims, Devon Vele, Troy Franklin, or any other wide receiver that's already on that roster?
All I know is if there's a tip ball, I need Devon Vele on my team. So,
but the way that they use Marvin Mims, his route tree can grow. He can be at that deep threat. I'm not like in a best ball draft. I love him a lot more because I love the pops and you don't love the down spike weeks and things of that nature. But there's going to be opportunity for Marvin Mims in 2025. And I think getting him there in the 10th round is more than value.
Yeah, I just need him to catch the damn ball. Over the last 6 weeks or so, he's gotten a decent target share, 5 and 4 up to 8, but he's not catching everything. And then what got him 5 touchdowns over the last 6 weeks. So the production can be there, and it looks like him and Bo Nix are going to make that connection. That's what
I'm saying. He's going to have the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And really what we're doing at this point, who has opportunity? The offseason will help us decide where that opportunity ultimately comes in. But when you're talking about these middle rounds, these late rounds, you want opportunity. That's what you're chasing.
Right back at you, Ryan. Tony says he's a Colts fan. And he normally hates the Texans, so he gets the
there you go. I do love that Tony brought up. I don't know if I debate or I start his question. I didn't. But Tony brought up that he may actually be hating on ARSB because of the dud that cost him the playoffs this year. And I think that's a fair thing too. We joke that we do these drafts early, so it's fresh in our mind, but some of those biases are fresh in our mind as well. So.
100%. And I think that's the fun part about doing them, right? Is we do have all this fresh information and fresh hate.
I did want to quickly throw out. I looked at my Mock It Like It's Hot schedule for last year. I did my first show on March 16th. It was a dynasty draft. That leads me to believe rookies were in there. On March 23rd, it was a rookie draft. So I would say by mid-March, they are in there for sure. So.
Yeah, I think it's just the imagery that doesn't typically populate till way later.
Yeah.
I think they usually get the rookies in by end of February, early March.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's what.
Which makes sense because right now we don't there's still the deadline for declaration.
Yeah, they're not even official.
You can't upload rookies until you know who's actually going to be in the draft.
Actually, no, that's not true though. They had 1 or 2 guys last year in the pool because I had them ranked that ended up not declaring for the draft.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay.
Vince is debating between Gibbs and Nico at 107. Josh, start with you.
Well, in fairness, Gibbs never should have made it to the 107.
Yeah. And he wouldn't have.
Yeah, and he definitely wouldn't have without an auto pick. So
I that's easy to say. And I mean, Brocal Broncos fan, I don't think that would have affected him at all. Yeah, I that would have been interesting. But again, we'll never know.
Yep. Vince is he can't believe he got Bo in the 13th round. Like that. I like that.
Well, and speaking of, I mean, Bo Nix falling to the 13th. I mean, Baker in the 10th. Sam Darnold's a QB8 this year and went undrafted in this.
That's true.
That just goes to show you the kind of value that you can have at the quarterback position. Obviously, you're going to have the guys that are head and shoulders above, right? The Josh Allens, the Lamar Jacksons, Jaden Daniels, Burrow, Hurts, whomever. But there's always going to be value later. So figure out whether you want to prioritize having the 20 points per game at the quarterback position versus the potential for 18 plus at wide receiver, running back, etc.
Well, I think that also goes to what Ryan said earlier, that pretty damn sharp room here that we were able to put together.
Incredible.
And when you look at a Sam Darnold, for instance, it's very fresh in your mind what you saw last night against what we didn't think was a very good defense in Detroit, especially the secondary. But then with the question of where is he going to be next year? Is he still going to be in Minnesota, or is he going to be moved on? And the question of, okay, what's he going to have as far as weaponry?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his weapons are definitely not going to be the same if he's outside of Minnesota.
Could be the starting quarterback for the Jets.
Yeah, full circle moment. That one.
And then that brings up Weisse.
Look, if last night didn't show you that Sam Darnold and the big stage are like oil and water, I don't know what does. Where he needs to go is like Tennessee, where there's never any pressure.
Where they never get anything. He's the perfect quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes.
Yeah.
How far do we see Tyreek falling? Like third round.
Well, he went in the third round here.
Draft.
That seems right to me. I maybe would have taken Higgins over him, but when I look at the next guys, maybe JSN, but that's about it. When I look at the guys directly after him, McConkey's interesting, but that might literally be it looking at the rest of this. So I think he went where he was supposed to go.
Will there be rookie mocks? Caesar, you
come on, man.
Don't
come on.
I don't even know why I even entertain that.
So yeah,
come on, man.
What I learned last year is you guys get really hungry for rookie mocks right when the rookies become available. So mock it like it's hot. I'll probably start with rookie mocks. Then we'll slide into dynasty, do more rookies. I'm probably not going to do anything redraft related on mock it like it's hot until after the draft, honestly, because you guys, like I said, you love this dynasty stuff, and we'll throw in a redraft here or there just to keep everybody excited. So
yeah, just going through the chat real quick to make sure we didn't miss any questions or anything like that.
This
is
wild to me. Absolutely wild to me. The problem was not the offense. The problem was Geno Smith is just old and ineffective, plain and simple. Ryan Grubb is going to get another offensive coordinator job, and I want every piece of that offense.
This also screams to me old-minded football because Ryan Grubb didn't prioritize the run, and you can't convince me that's not why they're getting rid of him, because he wouldn't prioritize
This is what happens when you hire a defensive-minded head coach.
Terrible.
Plain and simple. Defensive-minded head coaches want to run the football, control the clock, and play defense.
I hope Grubb stays. I'm nervous he's just going to run back to college. Like, I feel like he belongs in the NFL, so I'm hoping he sticks around.
I agree. I think his system worked very well in the NFL. He just didn't have the right pieces in the system. I mean, he had one good piece. Two good pieces, really. I mean, JSN had a great season. I still love DK. I'm not.
I was going to say, this actually...
It's the quarterback problem.
This causes a little bit of a worry for me for JSN all of a sudden, because now I got to figure out what that offense is going to look like. So
yeah, it's true.
Real quick, who was it?
Oh God, no.
Craig, I did not see your comment. If you would put it back in, I can't find it right now. But if you
if you pop it, he re-asked the question when he said that, Jay. He just wants to know if he needs to go wide receivers early or not because of the 4 wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, if you're starting 4 wide receivers, you 1000% should be considering going wide receiver heavy.
Yeah,
now, don't force it. This is the other thing too. Don't force it. Let the draft come to you. If you've got a whole bunch of other teams that are going wide receiver heavy, pivot, load up on tight end and running back, and get your elite quarterback, mix and match at the wide receiver position, and play the waiver wire.
That's where I'm going to mildly disagree with Josh. I would not, in this draft setup, I probably would not go quarterback because of the value later in the draft. What I would say is your first 7 picks should probably be 3 running backs and 4 wide receivers, but don't force going wide receiver early over running back. Let it come to you in that way. But the fact of the matter is this: you're starting 6 position players, and I don't know if there's a flex as well. I am punting on quarterback and tight end in a draft like this all the time.
But here's the thing, Ryan, you want to talk about just the top 12 at quarterback. You had 6 quarterbacks that averaged in standard 4-point per passing touchdown scoring. You had 6 quarterbacks that scored over 20 fantasy points. If you want to take the top 4 guys at 21 and a half and up, QB 12 was 17.8.
Yeah.
That is a positional advantage.
You're not
take
wrong.
that option at the high end quarterback.
Yeah.
Said he doesn't have a flex in that one there.
Okay. I guess that makes me feel a little bit better, because if you're starting 7 position players, my goodness, that makes it interesting every week, to say the very least. But you're still starting 6. So I would still avoid quarterback, just because what Josh said is absolutely right. If I'm not getting,
but why take the wide receiver 26 over the QB 1? Because ultimately that's kind of what you would be looking at if everybody else is going to go, hey, I got to load up on wide receiver.
Yeah.
It doesn't
But
make any sense just because you're trying to fill a starting
your
spot.
league is starting 50 wide receivers every week. I just feel like you better get in where you fit in. So,
I mean, sure. The objective is still to score the most points.
Yeah.
I want to bring up Tony's comment real quick because I've got a question on this stacking things. He says he was wanting Tracy, but he ended up panic drafting Mahomes in the 6th for the stack.
Ew, God, no.
So my question is in a redraft setting like this, how much does stacking matter? Because in my 3 championships, the 2 championships that I won this year, I had 0 stacks when it came down.
Yeah, I mean, if you're bought into an offense, I'm fine with it. I don't prioritize it. Yeah, Tony hit it on the head, panic picking. And as someone who panic picked Dak Prescott and Scott Fishbowl last year, I can relate to your guy goes and you don't know what to do. So you just take what appears to be the best player available. It's again, I'm not prioritizing stacking, but again, I'm never going to fault anybody for panic picking because my God,
panic picking happens all the time. And we're all privy to it. It happens. I don't worry about stacks in a redraft at all unless it's a large tournament setting, plain and simple. Because the high-end stacks or sneaky value stacks, they do provide value. Like in Scott Fishbowl, like I prioritized late round stacks because it offered a different type of advantage versus trying to force, let's say, a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase in the first 2 rounds, right?
Yeah.
You know, I went the route of I got Lamar early, so I prioritized Zay Flowers. You know, I was able to get DK in like the 5th or 6th round. So I was like, look, let me pair him with, you know, Geno Smith, right? Like kind of get those cheaper stacks because if they do pop and they hit, that's the kind of advantage that you get in a large tournament setting. You don't get that kind of value in redraft, plain and simple.
Now, and I wanted to throw Tony's comment up on the screen here. This was the entire thought process behind me starting Mock It Like It's Hot when we started that show 3 years ago. Was mocking. There's a point in mocking. You're going to see a lot of people who are going to get bored in March and April on Twitter and start shitting on mock drafts because that's what people like to do. Mock drafting isn't all about ADP. Mock drafting is getting used to a format. It's getting used to what players you're looking for in a draft. It's getting used to strategies. And more importantly, it can back you off of panic picking. If I had drafted on Sleeper, I don't panic pick, plain and simple. First of all, I have an 8-hour clock in Scott Fishbowl, but in a live draft, I didn't have a lot of experience in live draft. In fact, Scott Fishbowl every year is my first live draft because we do it in July. And so in a live draft, I'm on the clock. I had no time whatsoever, but I had people around me. It was a lot of chaos going on. Everybody took the players I wanted early on. My entire draft strategy was out the window.
And that first round was such a flip from what it should have been. It was hilarious.
So Tony had the advantage, and I'm using advantage loosely here, of it being a 1-player tilt. I thought I knew who I was getting in the first 3 rounds, and they all went ahead of me in the first round. And I'm like, okay, this is not what I thought this draft was going to look like. So,
yep.
Absolute blast. George piping in. Tyreek Hill has changed his Twitter profile. He photoshopped his face over Antonio Brown when he was shirtless, leaving the
Tyreek Hill to the Raiders confirmed.
Let's go.
Although here's the thing with this, right? So let's say the scenario that we put forth earlier with the Browns potentially trading back with the Raiders. Raiders are at 6-2, not an unheard of move. If they land Shedeur Sanders, I think making a trade for someone like Tyreek Hill fits that offense pretty damn well. Just throwing that out there. I mean, they got to figure out who their offensive coordinator is going to be. Hint, hint, go get Ryan Grubb. You don't have a running back, so you don't have to worry about running the damn football. I think that's an okay move.
Interesting. Craig says, I have a quarterback does a run and throw more points than quarterbacks just throwing on upside.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get production from a different aspect, it's going to be more valuable. That's why we always prop up running backs that have higher floors from a rushing perspective. That's why Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson are consistently the top 1, 2, 3, 5 guys. I mean, but it also really depends on your scoring setting, you know?
All right, guys, let's get ready to get out of here. A couple real quick ones. Vince, you will never let me live this down. No, I do not like panic picks. I just let it auto pick and go from there. You are absolutely correct. Oh my Lord. Yeah. Jamie asked who the winner of SFP 14 was, and it was Chris Charles. So congratulations to him. Guys, what an awesome show. We didn't get into anything that was on the show sheet.
Nope.
I don't even know why Josh made me do it. He's an asshole for letting me.
I was kind of thinking the same thing. The only thing I'm like,
it always helps to have backup topics.
And I'll give you that, Josh, because I usually have a show sheet with 10 topics on it. And if I get to 5 of them, I'm surprised. But here's the thing, and Jay will agree with this. Josh will agree with this. When the chat carries the show, it's the best show that we do.
It makes everything so much easier.
Kudos to you guys. We can't tell you enough how much we appreciate you.
No, absolutely.
And I do want to bring up George's inquiry really quick. We don't always rate teams. He did drop that in the chat.
Yeah, I will throw out there, though. I went and looked in case we were going to do it for this show. George had a great one. Fucking Astro Dabber put in work on this draft. Kudos to Astro Dabber.
All I know is it was not my team.
Yeah, nor mine.
Any team with Jerry Judy, F-.
Yeah, and then I
love the fact that Ryan says nor mine, because right before the show he came in and said he was kicking everybody's ass.
Well, and then you guys turned out to actually know what you were doing. This sucks.
Awesome.
So much easier drafting with fucking idiots. I don't know. This is not the idea I signed up for.
Yeah. Club Fantasy FFL does not have idiots.
No, like I said,
more in their drafts. So.
I guess I should have learned from the listener league, getting my ass kicked in that the people I'm drafting with are not nearly as dumb as the people I'd like to be drafting with.
And look, we even allowed Josh in there, and
no, I took 12 on purpose. I 100% took 12, 100%. To see what happened with Bucky Irving and Chase Brown. So kudos to you guys. Or to everybody but Tony. Not kudos for letting those wide receivers fall to me, but Tony would tell you that I fucked up. So, and he's probably right.
He's probably right. No, guys, we greatly appreciate it. Don't forget tonight. I say don't forget. Let me let you know tonight. Myself, Joel, and Austin are going to get together right here on Club Fantasy FFL and do a best ball playoff draft tonight on Underdog. So if y'all are interested in that, we're going to get that going about 8:00 this evening. Trey Block and Dynasty After Party are on hiatus. No pun intended, 9 p.m. on Wednesday. Oh, Captain, My Captain will have a couple playoff episodes each week. Do we have a time on those yet, or when those are going to be released, Josh?
Austin and I are going to be recording them on Wednesday. So we'll probably drop. Honestly, we usually drop all of them at once. So we'll probably drop most of them on Thursday.
Just want to let everybody know the wild card weekend is set, of course. Currently it is, or the schedule is set for Packers Eagles on Sunday at 4. Commanders Bucks Sunday night at 8 p.m. I probably should have done this in the order of time frame, but I didn't. The Saturday game is going to be on Chargers at the Texans.
Okay.
And then on Prime at 8 p.m. Steelers Ravens. Sunday at 1 it's the Broncos at the Bills. Sunday at 4 Packers Eagles. Sunday night 8 p.m. Commanders Bucks. And then we have a Monday wild card game, Vikings at the Rams, with the Lions and Chiefs both getting the buys for this playoff round. Any last words, parting words for these guys? I'm Monday's Hangxiety for me has been an absolute blast. Outside of the couple weeks that we had to miss for the hurricane, but Ryan, you did a phenomenal job yet again, holding it down for those 2 weeks, doing it by yourself. And man, I just don't know if I can get enough listening to Ryan talk over and 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 over.
Well, like I said, if I decide to do this show on Monday, I don't think Austin's going to be able to ride with me. So it might be me doing a mock draft show by myself, which we've done before. It was my first experience. Now I'm a veteran at doing shows by myself. So we'll see how that turns out. But decisions.
I don't ever want to do a show by myself.
Yeah, Josh has made that very clear.
I do 5 minutes of NPI just by myself, and I was like, nope, I don't want to do this
when
ever
Joe
again.
crashed, yeah.
The only shows I like doing by myself are the ones that are recorded where I can go back there and cut out shit.
Yeah, that's true too. But no, just to let you guys know about the mock drafts. Expect me back in March. Other than the Wednesday show, I try to take January and February off. I do so much during the season that I just need to not think about football for a little bit. So
Yeah, but don't sweat it. The DMs are always open. He will
oh,
answer.
100%. I don't ignore you guys ever. So.
All right, Josh, any parting words for the season?
Stay tuned to the website, clubfantasyffl.com. We're going to have some off-season content dropping there. I'm working on my fixer-upper series, kind of taking some of the bad teams and figuring out how we can make them good and plentiful for fantasy managers.
And we might have our own draft content this year.
We have NFL draft content going to be dropping. Our Dynasty guys, Joel, I know Gator's going to take a couple of new writers potentially. Kind of adding some draft profiles. Now, if you followed us for any period of time, especially over on Twitter at Club Fantasy FFL, we do our Stars of Tomorrow series where we drop graphics and threads from across the industry that highlight players to kind of give everybody an idea of who they're likely to be adding to their fantasy teams come the summer when they're making their drafts. Or, obviously we can use this for dynasty and rookie drafts as well. So it's nice to be able to have some of that content on our actual website and not just, sharing it from the socials. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. One last time, if you enjoyed it, and even if you didn't, sure, go ahead, hit that like for us, hit that subscribe. Guys, it has been a fun season. Appreciate each and every single one of you. We will see y'all tonight if you decide to join us. Ryan, for Josh, myself, appreciate y'all. Enjoy.